with things out. We choose freedom, terminate contracts, and establish personal boundaries. We tell the entity that we are against it being in our personal space. Our will is inviolable, and it is in removing the connection from our space. Today we will talk about how to set personal boundaries. And it's not about psychological personal boundaries, but about the most powerful protection we can set on a subtle level. What is allowed in your reality, what is not. All this can be clearly stated and set as uncompromising conditions, so that you start defining your own rules of the game. And since the topic of personal boundaries is directly related to intention and connections, we will touch on them as well. First of all, let's start with what we already know from the topic of disconnecting connections. First and foremost, it is necessary to separate your consciousness from the consciousness of the entity to understand where you are and where the entity actually is. It's necessary to track where you are being manipulated. This is the first step in setting personal boundaries. Next, we tell the entity that we are against it being in our personal space. Our will is inviolable, and it is in removing the connection from our space, and it's no longer welcome here, with things out. From your personal space, from your life, from your reality, you simply define your own rules of the game. You terminate contracts that have been imposed on you, simply because you can, simply because it's easy, simply because it can be done any moment unilaterally, because no one can force you to comply. You are free by default is also simple my will. I annul all of this, it no longer affects me. Use your will. You make a choice here, and now the choice to be free. And indeed, any act of will in one form or another is a choice. The way we live is our choice. And the principle of setting personal boundaries is primarily a choice tool. The same choice we make constantly, every day, but unlike many, this choice should be clear and firm. No halfway measures. When we're in the middle, we don't go either right or left. We need to know exactly what we want and make a clear choice. The choice between, oh, I am free, or leaving everything as it is. There is no middle state here. When you're in the middle, you change nothing. You won't get rid of dependencies, entities, egregores, when you come every Sunday to pat them on the back and feed them. Understand this point. In contrast, when you clearly state that you have decided to be free, decided to get rid of entities, set personal boundaries, and make such a choice, then your state must be such that you burn all bridges. No compromises, no, or maybe, or will won't, there's no room for internal wavering. A step forward. The step must be taken to the end. Personal boundaries are when we say, this is not acceptable with us. This should not be in my life, and remember, the main thing here is not a play on words, but a clearly formulated thought, a feeling, or thought form. How you express this intention at the level of your inner state. Clearly, specifically, unequivocally. Words work exactly as the thought you put into them. You cut off, take an irreversible step, you close the door behind you. That's it. No looking back. You completely refuse what was before. If you decided that you are getting rid of something, you do it radically. And if you hesitated today, you give in. And tomorrow you don't, then you are in a borderline state when, conditionally, every Sunday you remember that everything is not so bad in general, and you can continue living as before. The step must be taken to the end. And it's the same with personal boundaries. Personal boundaries are when we say, this is not acceptable with us. This should not be in my life. When you articulate this, it's also important to articulate not just what should leave your life, but also articulate what should take its place. We cut off one thing, as with a knife, and choose something completely different. For example, you cannot yell at me, you must speak politely with me, with respect, courteously, and you vividly imagine in your mind how people should communicate with you. This is what personal boundaries are, which you establish on a subtle level, and this applies to everything. Until you define your own rules of the game, you will play by someone else's rules. Those rules that are imposed on you, as long as you even mentally give permission for some mess to happen in your reality, it's stuffy at work, the boss yells, or another situation, it will continue. And here it is closely related to working with intention and changing reality, which I talk so much about on YouTube and discuss with participants in the BOS course. You set certain parameters for your reality. It should not be like this, but like that. You define this reality the way you need it, not someone else. And another important point regarding prohibitions. When you set personal boundaries, you set them as how not to behave on your territory in contact with you, in the rules of your reality, not as forcing someone to act, but as rules of behavior, so to speak. First and foremost, it's your thought form. This should not be in my life. In my life there can only be this and that, as I need it. Change your life in everything. Change your life everywhere. Try setting personal boundaries. Personal boundaries are a choice. The choice of your will. And this is the most powerful and best subtle plane protection. Personal boundaries are a choice. It's not some cocoon that protects you, that you put some protection on yourself or anything. It's a choice. The choice of your will. And this is the most powerful and best subtle plane protection. The choice that you say, I want to be free. I decided this, it's my will, but you were just never told that this is possible. You were just never told that you can do this. But you can and you are able to. This system of disconnecting entities, it works by setting your boundaries, your rules. I choose that I build my reality and decide what will be in it. So, to summarize, realize where and who is manipulating us, where is ours and where is imposed. Clearly express our will. Boundaries are set by your choice. No intermediate positions or suspended states. Create a thought form with your choice. Indicate what is allowed and what is not. Set the option of how it should be. Set the parameters. Launch the intention. What we heard so far. Personal boundaries. With things out. We choose freedom, terminate contracts, and establish personal boundaries. We tell the entity that we are against it being in our personal space. Our will is inviolable and it is aimed at removing the connection from our space. Today, we will discuss how to set personal boundaries, focusing not on psychological boundaries but on the most powerful protection we can set on a subtle level. Establishing personal boundaries. First and foremost, it's necessary to separate your consciousness from the consciousness of any entity, recognizing where you end and the entity begins. This awareness is crucial in preventing manipulation and is the first step in establishing personal boundaries. You then assertively communicate to the entity that its presence in your personal space is not welcome and that your will to remove it from your space is unwavering. Defining your own rules. By defining your own game rules, you terminate imposed contracts with ease, asserting your inherent freedom. This act of will, choosing to be free, highlights that living is a series of choices, including the construction of personal boundaries. Such decisions must be clear and firm, without any room for compromise or indecision. The power of choice and will. Every act of will is a choice, shaping our lives and the establishment of personal boundaries. This process involves a clear distinction between wanting freedom and maintaining the status quo, emphasizing the need for a decisive and unwavering stance. Personal boundaries involve stating what is unacceptable in your life and replacing unwanted elements with preferred ones, thus asserting your right to respectful and courteous treatment, changing your reality. Until you set your own rules, you'll play by others, often to your detriment. Recognizing and rejecting external manipulations allows you to redefine your reality according to your terms. This redefinition extends to setting behavioral standards within your personal space, essentially creating a thought form that outlines what is and isn't acceptable in your life. Conclusion and summary. In conclusion, understanding manipulation, expressing will, defining boundaries, and making clear choices are fundamental to establishing personal boundaries. This process is not just about protection, it's about actively choosing and shaping your reality, emphasizing the power of will and the importance of decisiveness in personal freedom and integrity. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Become a member of my Telegram channel and discuss with like-minded people as a club member.